Yeah, we'll take embassies. So we're already getting converted by Byzantium. Now, if we'd actually got a religion in Washington, and we actually have generated a profit, we're going to see what Byzantium's religion is before we decide what to do. We also deal with Shaka here. That was not good. And what you actually want to do with AI, because you don't really care about giving extra happiness away to the AI, if I could, I would trade away my last copy of copper for a duplicate from the AI. And what that means is that when an individual deal runs out, we don't lose happiness, right? Because we're already trading away our lost copy, so then we get our lost copy back. And what that means is Civ is very annoying in the sense that you lose your deal, no matter whether or not you did your deal on your turn or the AI's turn. You lose your deal before you start your turn. That means you lose the happiness before you start your turn, and then all of your stuff kicks in, you know, your growth, your production, your gold. And you'll notice when you're unhappy, you lose 75% growth and 2% production for each unhappiness point that you have. Well, that means that when this deal ends and you go below 0 happiness, you get 1 turn of unhappiness that counts towards the yields that you get at the start of your turn. That's really annoying. It can cut you back on turns on everything. You know, it means that the yield that it says you're going to get, you actually get less, not more. You know, when you grow, you actually get more than what it says, because, you know, that extra citizen gets counted for everything apart from food, but you actually get less when you lose a deal and you go unhappy. So what you want to do if AI is available to it is to trade away your last copy anyway. You don't care about giving extra happiness to the AI. They got like plus 40 happiness because they're deity. So you don't care about that whatsoever. So instead what you do is that you just you kind of give it to them anyway. Let them have the extra happiness because it doesn't matter. You don't really care about what's happening to AI, do. And that way when you lose your deal, as long as you only lose one, you don't go unhappy over the end turn when you're teetering on low happiness like this. So with this worker, we've got plenty enough workers now. So I think I might start on a road to Washington. That seems fair. The road will break even, and in fact it'll earn us gold per turn when we make it now, because the road gives you 1 gold per turn per population or something, or it's like the average between the two. Basically, it's 4 tiles for a road to Washington. We've got average between 5 and 7 would be 6, or 5 would be 5. You get that much gold per turn, so the road's going to pay for itself. We're starting a road. We don't really have any extra tiles that we want to improve in New York right now. This will improve, and then it'll start improving. Perfectly fine to go for a road now. We don't need extra. That's our deal ending. We got some more horses. That's actually a shame. I would have loved to have gotten horses in this city. The problem with our capital going to 4th ring horses is our capital can't work 4th ring horses, and it's already had horses when its borders. And the thing about horses is your city can build a stable if its borders expand 2 horses. That's when a city meets the condition for building a circus. Sorry, I said stable, I meant circus. A city meets the condition to build a circus when its borders have expanded to a horse or to an ivory. So even if this horse would be within 3 tiles of a new city here, but within 4 tiles of a city here, because this city expanded its borders to the horses, my new city now cannot expand its borders to the horses. That means that my new city cannot expand borders to horses, which means it cannot get a circus. That's a real crying shame. I hate that, but it is what it is. There's no way of stopping it because it was 4th ring. And we'll go improve these horses now because we're going to stay on our streak of going for production, and we're going to move this scout down. We'll actually probably use it to clear this barb camp. We'll work on this mine. Now with this profit, on Deity AI, there's actually an argument for just planting your profit. And the reason there's an argument for that is because, again, you know, we've already had 1 city converted to us. That means we're going to have to use a prophet or an Inquisitor plus missionary to convert Philadelphia back. That's going to be really, really inefficient. And look at what Byzantium's religion is actually giving us. Culture from plantations. We'll have like 1 or something. Not really anything. Pagodas. Monasteries. And Jesuit education. That the production with the city and the specialist. And Defender of the Faith. I don't think we get Defender of the Faith, so that's a shame about that. But what we have is may build universities, public schools and research labs with faith. Byzantium is spreading us Jesuit education. Jesuit is... anytime you get a chance to take Jesuit, take it, unless you need to Glory of God. We don't need to Glory of God. We're not going to get to Glory of God. We can have pagodas and Jesuit from Byzantium. So what we're actually going to do, we don't want a religion. Byzantium's religion is better than anything we could do. So we're going to plant our profit. The question now is what to do with the profit. And the reason this is a decision is because you'll watch a lot of good players. What they do is they prime profits on resources. They'll plant them on horses. They plant them on deer. They plant them on iron. And they do this because Usually you're struggling to work enough tiles in your cap, and so by planting it on a tile that you're already guaranteed to be working, you're not really sort of having to stretch to do it. But I mean, our capital is going to have great pop, so I think we want to just plop this down on any old tile that we really want. So I guess we'll just plump it down on one of these non-civil service grassland tiles, maybe. And it's going to stop us from working the horses though. So maybe actually, I mean, we're going to want to stop working this copper soon. So I guess we'll take the extra tile here with this. Okay, now what do we do? We need to be making our way to civil service. Civil service is going to be great for us. This city's river. This city's a long river. This city's got fresh water. This city's got river. We want civil service here. So we're going to take for it. And we'll go this way first because we're going to want markets before we're going to want drama and poetry. Even though the amphitheatre we're going to get for free in Washington. It's going to give us +1 culture. We don't really care about the +1 culture. It's +1 from 13, it's 14. We're not too worried. We're going to get tradition completed in a good time anyway. Embassy, sure. Okay, we'll get started. I think on the road. Move closer to the barb camp and we'll shoot it to clear it. I guess that means we probably don't need the warrior out here anymore. Move it back. We've done this. We're done with this quarry. We'll now move over to improve. Probably go back to get our marble. We'll go here and get vision on all these tiles so barbs can't spawn there anymore. We'll plant our holy... I guess we'll plant the holy site. We're already losing gold now. I guess I don't care about losing even more gold. We'll go get a holy site and just start churning out that faith. We've actually got 13 faith per turn now because we've got a faith ally and a faith friend. Yeah, and see, Byzantium's converted another of our cities over to their religion. There was no way we were overcoming Byzantium with our religion. It'd take us so much effort to spread it. Clear that camp, nice. And we're going to leave this archer out here somewhere so that barbs don't spawn there again. Probably do the same with the warrior, you know. We'll just fortify up there. And we finish tradition. So we get MC done faster now, that's good. We've got our 3 aqueducts, let's have a look. Aqueduct, 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 aqueduct. So now we definitely want full growth mode. That's going to be really important to us, but we're going to crunch out our watermill there first. You know, we'll get the watermill faster, that's 2 extra food faster, so we're not too worried about swapping 3 production for 3 food right now. And then what we're doing is we're gonna pre-build the roads before finishing them, and that's just because we don't want to waste the gold per turn when we're already -5. This one stays there, so we're going to sort of move back and forth finishing these roads. You'll see how that works out when we get there. We need lighthouse up in Boston next. We're going to do that because we've got optics already. It's a shame we can't get our own religion. Tide would have been nice. What do they want? Oracle. We might actually build the Oracle for Ife there. We definitely like to continue being allies with Ife. We're going to keep abusing this move and then tile improve as opposed to just tile improve thing. We're going to move the scout along, and we're probably going to garrison the warrior right there. We're going to put the archer right up there. That should stop most barb camps from spawning. Oh, pro tip: if you didn't know, barb camps can't spawn on bonus resources. They can't spawn on luxury tiles, so they can't spawn on the marble. They can't spawn on the sheep. They can't spawn on the deer. They can't spawn on the iron. Really, really useful for you to know when you're thinking about barbarians, because you'll see I'm placing all these units around here to try and make sure that I've got vision on tiles so barb camps don't spawn there. I don't actually have to have vision on a bonus resource tile. Barbs can't spawn on it. Very nice to know. We've got no good tiles to work here, so we just work something bland. That's fine. You know, our city has got a perfectly good population right now. We'll get more workers. This is why workers are really important. I mean, look, we're working tiles that have 2 yield of food and production combined. I spoke about it earlier. You always want to be working tiles of 3 yield of food and production combined. If you want to grow, you need something that's working 3 food. We're not doing that right now, so we're violating that rule. That's why we're short on workers, even though we've got 5. People like to say things like, you know, number of cities +1. They like to say, you know, all sorts of things like 1.5 per city. More is better. You can see right now, cities +1, clearly not worth it. We're going to be building 5th city. So, you know, numbers of cities +1 is going to be 6 anyway, so we need this extra worker. But actually, I think, personally, at the minimum, you want 1.5 times cities rounded up. So right now that would be 6 because 1.5 times 4 is 6. But if we had 5 cities, you would want 1.5 times 5, which would be 7.5 rounded up, which would be 8. But actually 2 per city is probably actually where you want to go. Just because if your cities are actually growing at a good rate, you're going to need... I mean, a worker takes 4 turns to put down a tile improvement. If your cities grow in 5 turns, that means that every 5 turns they're going to need a new tile improvement. 1 worker per city can just about keep up with that. 2 workers per city will allow you to do stuff like take out jungle, build roads, chop forests, that kind of thing. Ah, deal. Hopefully we don't lose that. Come on. I don't think the AIs have done the deal, so we're not too worried. It's actually a bit of a slow turn because we tried to give them this. We're going to trade away our lost copper. And that's for 2 reasons again. 1, so we don't lose happiness when we go from having a deal to not having a deal because we traded away our last copy. But also because, you know, this copper, we'll get that online eventually. We'll get that copper online eventually. We won't get that copper, unfortunately, but it doesn't matter to us too much. Okay, we'll get this iron online now. Stay there. If you're wondering what's happening with my units doing things when I'm not clicking on any of the buttons, it's because I'm using hotkeys. There's a variety of hotkeys you can use for Civ. They can be found, I think they're in the controls somewhere. Let me just have a look. Interface options, video options. So yeah, they can't be found here, but if you Google for Civ 5 hotkeys, and you can find them. Sometimes it tells you the hotkeys over the actions anyway. Let's hover and have a look. Move is M. Do nothing is space. Alert is A. Fortify is F. Explore automated is E. And delete is delete. So on my keyboard I can press these buttons as opposed to having to move my mouse around to click. Doesn't matter too much now, but it does actually speed up the rate that you go through turns by using the hotkeys. And that's what I'm moving. That's why they're doing things even though I'm not clicking on everything. We won't be improving these bananas because bananas are valuable. You get +2 science on jungle tiles. Bananas always spawn under jungle. So 2 science is going to be better for us than the 1 food. You'll notice that like people are always out on this. You know, do you chop bananas? Do you not? But here's the thing: 1 food, it's not a lot once your city's got to like pop 5 or something. If you're at pop 5, you need 36 excess food to grow. I mean, you know, how much faster is 1 food per turn really going to make that? It's going to take you a turn off at the most. But what that really means is that by the end of the game, you're going to have like 2 pop extra at max by putting a plantation on this bananas. And if it's a hill bananas, you're not even going to get that. You're going to get 1 hammer instead. So you just want to chop out. You don't want to chop out the bananas here, but there is one time when I would chop, 2 times I guess when I would chop bananas. First, when my city is so desperately low on hammers, 1 hammer is actually going to make a difference. That's the first one. I might chop bananas then. The second is when my city is so desperately low on food, I actually need the extra food. I will do it then. But you'll note the word desperately. You're barely ever desperate. There's better ways to cure the food problem than chopping bananas, i.e. send a caravan. Send a food caravan or send a food cargo ships. But the third is actually bananas. They're jungle. They can be hill as well. They can be over rivers. What that means is that now we bought this hill, these bananas, and it was actually a good price to do so because we're America. But we probably would have bought these bananas anyway, and the governor might have expanded there. But basically, a 3rd ring banana that's on a hill in jungle is super low priority for automatic border expansion. And what that means is that your borders just aren't going to expand there automatically. However, if you chop the jungle, your borders will expand there. And you're like, oh, you know, BCJ Law, why? You just told us how bad chopping it is. Yes, but, you know, you need your gold 100%, especially in the early game. And if you chop the banana, you can end up with it in your borders 30 turns sooner than you would do otherwise. 30 turns of 4 food and 1 production, or 5 food, is better than 30 turns without having it. Which is why that situation is good to chop bananas. Now, bananas are within our borders in this case, so we don't want to chop it. Instead, we're going to go and improve these sheep. We're out of tiles to improve production on now, so what we want to start improving next is food. Which is why we're now doing food, whereas around these cities we were still focusing on production where we can. Growing in Washington, that's great. We'll go and work this tile next. We don't have any. We have a 2 food tile to work, but I mean, look, this is giving us 4 yield of production and food, so that's totally worth it. Especially when we've already got +10 food per turn. We're not too worried about giving up the food there, but we will want to rectify that at some point here. Next priority, definitely lighthouse. It's going to really accelerate the growth of Boston. You know, we can buy this tile. We already have this fish tile. It's going to turn it into a 4 food 1 hammer as opposed to 2 food tile, so we definitely want it. And we're going to continue taking towards civil service. If I was in multiplayer or in a lower difficulty, I may take a different tech path here. You know, you might want engineering to build a Great Wall. You may want ironworking to build a Colossus of your coastal. You may want construction for terracotta army, but all these wonders have already gone. And you may want to really rush for Notre Dame, which is a wonder you can get on multiplayer or on low difficulties. Even on Immortal, you can get Notre Dame if you go straight for physics without going for civil service. Deity, no way. In fact, the Deity AI is actually not already there. But look, Deity AI has already got chivalry. Deity AI, because we're looking for these discounted tech costs, they already have metal casting, because look, theology is 221, whereas metal casting is 192. So Deity AI is already at metal casting. There's no way we're beating them to Notre Dame, so we're not going to worry about it. But if you were playing multiplayer, or if you were on Immortal or lower, you might actually have a chance at Notre. If you're wondering why I pronounce it like that for any American viewers, it's because Notre Dame is like, it's a French thing. And in French, it's, you know, in America you have an American university or college called Notre Dame. But by the French, it's not pronounced Notre, it's pronounced something like Notre, or you know, whatever very fancy French sounding pronunciation. So that's why I'm pronouncing it as Notre, because it's closest to the real thing. Apologies, Americans. American players at Civ always pronounce it wrong. It's not your fault, but just explaining why it's done that way. So it's kind of like Notre as opposed to Nota. It's kind of a bit different. It kind of goes with the spelling as well. But anyway, we'll get a stable next. Again, we're really super early game, so we're really trying to push out all of our production buildings. So I think we'll go for a stable. This city could also build a stoneworks. We do need more workers at some point. And maybe actually I'll take the time to get my working out and then we'll go for the stable. So we'll just queue that up. There's going to be no more important buildings for us to get. Workers will allow us to upgrade all of these freshwater tiles around New York to civil service tiles. It allows us to turn these full tiles to civil service. Allow us to turn all of these tiles and get civil service bonus from them, because the civil service bonus is plus food from the farm is increased by 1 tiles with access to fresh water. You don't get the civil service bonus if you don't have a farm on the tile, which is why we're really prioritizing that. Okay. And we'll continue moving around. We need to get this marble online ASAP now. We're only on 2 happiness. We're going to need the happiness, especially when we go settle the city, and we really need gold. So I've been stupid, I haven't been selling my iron to the AIs, but we absolutely should be here.
Μέλημα.
We'll just take maximal gold per turn. And we're going to do that because we need all the gold per turn we can get. And the reason is, and I'll show you in just a minute, as soon as we're done cheesing this. We'll sell it 1 for 1 here because there's no point in waiting. We've got sheeps in range, that's good. Sheep's actually probably a worthwhile tile for Philadelphia to work here. Yeah, we'll take away that now. In fact, we can get this down to 1 turn, right? No, we can't. Interesting. We still can't get 1 turn. But this is still 2. I guess maybe we'll just take maximum production for now. Maximum production, maximum gold. We do need the gold. We'll continue doing this road. And we'll start on the civil service tiles. Let's go and make our way through here while we can. We finished our water mill. We'll get a worker, true to form of trying to get our 2 workers per city. And then what we'll do is we'll get the stoneworks after that. Stoneworks is production and happiness, so it's a great choice early game. Stoneworks, stables, water mills, they're better the earlier you take them. Which is why I'm prioritising them now, and which is why we half stagnate our cities to crunch through our build queue early. Because if you only worked food, you'll notice you'll get way behind your build queue. You never find the time to build stoneworks and water mills. But they're brilliant buildings, you want to build them early. Which is why we're actually stagnating our cities to get them out. Especially when you can do the stagnation before you get the free aqueducts from the tradition finisher. Because growth is just not efficient until after. Always remember that. Free aqueducts, tradition finisher, that's when you want to grow. You get a lot more for your money by prioritising hammers until then. So finish National College, and now we've got a choice. We could build a circus, but we're going to get this marble back online. I'm not too worried about getting happies right now with the circus, but we can get allies with IFE, and that's going to give us happiness for doing pearls. Oracle is a wonder that the AI doesn't prioritise, and it's going to give us access to a really nice philosocial policy. And what I mean by philosocial policy is the philosocial policy is a policy that you take before rationalism. In higher level play, rationalism is it's fantastic. It's the next best social policy tree behind tradition, and it's only behind tradition because you can take tradition. Because you can take tradition from the start of the game, you can't take rationalism until Renaissance era. Rationalism is so good. You want everything to go to rationalism until you've finished at least secularism, humanism, and free thought. They are priority, and it's just because You get your science done faster. It wins you the game sooner. Remember that Civ is not a game of building the best empire. It's a game of winning the game first, winning the game in the fewest amount of turns. And science does that. You know, you need science to every victory condition. If you don't have science, you either fall behind, you have a crap military, or you get ahead and you can build a spaceship faster. You can kill everyone with more powerful units faster. Science is just king. This lets you churn through science like nothing else. Play a multiplayer game and don't take rationalism, and just watch how you get crunched in science. You will lose science so hard. And it's because you get plus 10% science when your empire is happy. You get plus 2 science from every specialist. Boom, you're going to be using specialists. I'll show you later. 25% great scientist generation. Great scientists equal science. In the end game, 1 scientist is 1 tech. You know, it's already obvious how that one gets you to the end game faster. And free thought is plus 1 science from trading posts and plus 17% science from universities. All brilliant. Absolutely want rationalism. So we use philosocial policy just because rationalism is so good. It's better than everything else, which means that everything else is kind of secondary or filler. But philosocial policies are nice. They're really useful. You can get great benefits from them. And you know, getting the social policy from Oracle is nice. It allows you to take a good philosocial policy. It will enhance your empire. But also, building Oracle, it gets you 3 culture. Again, culture is actually really, really in demand. It lets you get through rationalism faster. It doesn't pay itself back for having to take the extra policy before rationalism, but plus 3 is a nice bonus, and crucially, plus 1 great scientist point. Great scientist points are how you generate great scientists. Great scientists are earned by hitting a certain threshold for the number of great scientist points you have. Oracle is 1 great scientist point that you would not be able to get otherwise, and it comes really early, so we're going to go for Oracle, even though Mausoleum of Halicarnassus is a great wonder. And it's only 4 turns. This is why we grow our capital early. This is why we work in production. We've got time right now to build a wonder, and it's being built really fast on quick speed. So we're really, really happy about what we've done. And we don't quite need a circus yet, because we're going to get this back online. Hopefully by building Oracle, we'll even get IF that'll give us powers that we don't have. Now, I said earlier, I promised you, why we talk about why we need gold per turn. We need gold per turn because Wales is the 5th luxury for our 5th city. And you always want to build cities up to the number of unique luxuries that you can have within your city's borders that you can improve. It's just kind of a rule of thumb, because more cities is always better, and 1 luxury to 1 city is a general good rule of thumb for being able to figure out when you can still build your cities tall. And so let's just have a quick... Oh man! Oh, I knew that was punishing not to do that. Well, rip. We're going to have to go deal with that barb camp. Hopefully it doesn't start pillaging our entire village around there, but you know it might. Can we get the Oracle down turn? We're not. We are working this iron, but we don't need to. Don't need the hammers here in Philadelphia. Let's see if we can work the iron here and bring Oracle down a turn. We can. We're bringing, and look, it doesn't even cost us a growth. It's still 5 turns either way. And bringing it down a turn just makes it more likely that we'll get it. You want to look out for that anytime you can while you're building wonders. We built all these road sections, so this is the last road section, and we get this, by the way, in our city to tell us that it's connected, and it tells us how much gold per turn we're making. It's 7. There's some sort of average between these two. That tells you when the road's connected. It's always good to look out for that. When you think you finished your road, check for that symbol. That means the road's complete. That means you'll start getting the gold per turn. We'll move the scout here, just because that means that if we kept our scout here, a barbarian could spawn here and it can move 2 tiles or 1 tile and then pillage and do all sorts of funny stuff. If we put a barb here, we get zone of control. 1, the barb can't spawn on this tile, and 2, if it spawns on this tile and it tries to move here, it uses up all its movement. We'll save ourselves a pillage for a turn. That's why we put the scout there. We grew in our capital. And we grew here, but we already assigned those tiles too. Yeah, that ruin got taken. Shame. Jack has already got impies, man. But hey, look, we're 2 turns away from pikemen ourselves. Impi really are a fearsome unit. You do not want to be fighting impies. But they're not as indestructible as they look. People think that impies are absolutely OP. But you can actually defend against impies. With pikes and crossbows versus impies, you can defend. Obviously, impies are super OP. But if you can get pikes in forts, it makes it so much easier to defend against impies. If you need to defend forts, they are a totally underrated thing. And I got laughed at in a multiplayer game the other day for building forts in my own territory. But you won't believe, forts are a massive defensive bonus. I'll show you when we get to engineering, because that's when you unlock the ability to build forts. I'll show you why they're so good. But a case in point, I was playing a multiplayer game the other day, and I put a pikeman in a hill on a fort, and a catapult and 2 crossbowmen were not doing enough damage per turn the pikeman was actually healing 20 HP per turn, which is more than the damage it was taking for being shot in the fort. What does this tell me? It means that basically putting a pike in a fort in rough terrain in front of your city can shut down attacks from crossbows, from composites, from impies, because the fort gives you like 40% bonus to defense or something. It is insane. And pikes are a great unit for their era. So building forts where you want to be garrisoning your melee units can be so useful for defense. It's unbelievable. So that's why impies aren't as fearsome as they seem. Just be smart, build forts when you board a shaka, and build units to put in those forts. And you won't have to worry too much about the impy. We're gonna get to work on this road to Boston here again because the road breaks even. But again, also because we've got plenty of workers around to actually build these roads, and the road breaks even. It's great. It's nice to get the roads between the capitals, and because we don't actually have any more civil service tiles to improve around New York right now, we finally got the marble online. That's good. We'll work it. I probably could have been working sites from the Barringer Crater. But again, as I said early game, if you want your cities to get better than they already are, you need to probably be working 3 yield of production or gold or food. Barringer provides none of that, which is why it's a nice one to be next to, and it gives you defense apparently. Didn't know that, but that's why it doesn't prove to be all that useful. I'm actually going to build a road while I'm up here on this iron tile now, even though I could be improving civil service tiles. That's just because when we want to eventually put a road on the iron tile, we're actually going to have to lose all our moving points to move on it, so we might as well put a road up there now while we can. And we're really starting to churn out the gold per turn. We've got 15. The gold per turn is important. I think I forgot to mention. It's important because this city, when we found it, its unique luxury is whales. We're going to need to build a workboat to upgrade the whales. We cannot build a workboat in Washington. We cannot build one in Philadelphia. We cannot build one in New York. We could build one in Boston, but it has to walk all the way around here. Most likely, the workboat for the whales is going to come from this city itself. Gold will allow us to pay for that workboat if we need to. And we may not need to, but it's going to be crucial for our happiness. We're going 5 luxury to 5 cities. We're going to have a few happiness issues, so we're going to need to get the whales on ASAP. So it might prove crucial to get that 170 gold in order to be able to buy the workboat for those whales. And if we don't buy the workboat for the whales, we probably need to buy a trireme to defend our coastline, to defend the whales from barbarian pillaging. So that's why it's important. And I mean, gold in general, it's a really valuable resource. It's funny when you play Civ 5 and you start out, you realise how unuseful gold is. And so you realise food and science are always better. So the kind of a telltale sign of someone who is actually good enough to beat Deity, but isn't super pro yet, is that their gold per turn is like negative virtually all the time. And that's because gold is, you can't prioritise gold before food and production and science. So gold ends up practically 5th because you probably need culture first too. But the telltale sign of when someone has become a really good player is when they also have great gold per turn. Cool, we got another worker out here now, that's brilliant. So we're now up to 7 workers. We can probably stop here until we founded that city. We're starting to run out of tiles to improve. But again, we'll walk along here and do this thing where we pre-build the road so we don't have to pay for them. And we'll actually, nah man, I made a mistake here. I should have had this one do that and then this one do the farm, because we get the farm up sooner. But it's okay, I guess it's only a turn after all. We're there now, and the lighthouse is going to get in 1 turn, so I'm just going to prematurely lock that down. It's going to be 1 turn either way, so I'm not too worried about losing out on the hammer there. Boston grew, nice. City-state bonuses changed. Good, city-state bonuses get bigger per era, so that's always nice to know. In fact, it's actually something worth noting. Often people think that it's not worth friending a city-state. People get sucked into the illusion that actually it's only good to be allies with city-states, but that's fundamentally not true, actually. By the end game, by the time you get like maximal city-state bonuses for being in the atomic era, you get plus 13 culture per turn for being friends with a city-state. 13. And it's so much easier to be friends with the CS than allying with it, because friends only requires you to be over 30. Ally requires you to be over 60 and to be ahead of everyone else. And I mean, you know how much ridiculous influence Deity AI gets. I don't need this warrior out here, so I'm going to move it back. Hopefully I can get up here before a barbarian camp spawns up there, but I might have just been a bit of an idiot and not dealt with that one properly.